Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah. I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, in the green words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. This is Brother Student Minister Dr. Abdul Halim Muhammad, and this is one black man's opinion. I want to connect the dots. I want to talk to you about natural and man-made disasters and preparedness, proper planning and preparedness. My brothers, my sisters, will aid us and increase our chances of survivability, sustainability, and resilience. Resilience, the ability to bounce back, bounce forward, is something that we need to talk about. As we look at what's going on right now, particularly in uh, the heat and the weather that's taking place, the tornadoes that are taking place, the violent thunderstorms, the excessive heat here in Texas. It's June, and we got a heat index from 105 to 110, and we're expecting our infrastructure, meaning our grid, to hold up, and we're expecting, uh, we're leaning on the government and federal government, state governments, local government to care for us. Well, the truth of the matter is that equity equity is tied to resilience. Hear me now. Let me give you a definition. Resilience is the ability of a system to be disturbed, whether it's a man-made or natural calamity, and still retain its structure, its identity, and its function. That's called engineered resilience. Okay? It means you're able to bounce back. And then there's a thing called ecosystem resilience. Resilience that when a disturbance, man-made or natural calamity, impacts a system, that system, what it does is it adapts and then it transforms to a higher stable state, equilibrium or existence. That's called bouncing forward. Now, thus far, if you're poor and you get knocked back 3 steps, but you're able to bounce back, hell, you're still poor. If you had 1 and you get knocked back 2, you're -1, so you get back to 1, you're still poor. We need to bounce forward. If through a man-made or a natural disaster, you and I suffer loss, we should say, okay, how do I bounce back? But even better, which is to bounce forward. How do I adapt and transform? Now I'm talking about man-made and natural disasters. And right now, I just think that, we're just happy to have got past the last one. We had Hurricane Harvey in Texas. We had a freeze in Texas. Now we got heat and we're having these violent thunderstorms, and then we're having tornadoes. And we're having things hitting Houston that didn't usually hit Houston before. And they got golf ball size hail hitting in Dallas, Fort Worth area. This thing is getting serious, sister and brother. And I just think we need to open our eyes. Talk about man-made disasters. The last administration cut back regulations, uh, literally gutted EPA, loosened the regulations of many of our manufacturing plants and our uh, fuel production companies, our energy companies. And so things is just happening. And you could see what happened in Pennsylvania. Something happened with the driver of a fuel truck, and thousands of gallons of fuel ignited up under a freeway. That freeway collapsed out on I-95 outside of Philadelphia, and now the people have to be rerouted from it. And they say it's doubling the commuting time. So if it's already taking you an hour to get to work, Imagine what that's going to be like. Now it's 2 hours to get back to work and 2 hours to get home. Brothers and sisters, proper planning and preparation will assist us and help us in terms of our survivability, our sustainability, and our resilience. I'm deeply concerned with the way that we sometimes are so easily distracted or easily satiated or satisfied. First of all, let me say, I, along with the rest of many in Black America, do recognize the joy that our ancestors felt when they finally got the news that their physical enslavement was over. They were emancipated. But if you break down the word itself, it means to be out of their hands, but not out of their control. And we had 12 years of great progress that we made. And then they cut a deal at the Wormley Hotel, February 26, 1877, the same day that Master Fard Muhammad was born. That's physics. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction, where they allowed Rutherford B. Hayes to become the 19th president of the United States. But he had to withdraw the federal troops and end the military occupation of the South. And then the Black Codes and Jim Crow began. 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. Ku Klux Klan, they said, well, we're going to terrorize these Negroes, steal their land, burn down their businesses. Tulsa, Black Wall Street, Wilmington, North Carolina, Rosewood, parts of Atlanta. There's been riots all over the country where they terrorized us and set us back economically. We built nearly 50 independent Black towns and whatnot. And so today, we're happy to observe Juneteenth, but when so-called anti-Asian hate came about, they got government policy. There is a White House initiative to combat anti-Semitism. During Pride Month, we got LGBTQ policy. But we marched, we said Black Lives Matter, and guess what? We got no George Floyd police reform bill. You say, and coming up this November and next November, we'll be told to vote. But we got no John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Since the Supreme Court gutted the Section 5 of the Voters' Rights Act, no sooner than it was gutted, many of these southern states and other states began gaming the voting system to make it harder for young people, and mail-in ballots and same-day registration, all that kind of stuff they knocked out because they want to make it harder to vote in a so-called constitutional republic with democratic values. I'm saying all of that to say this, beloved. Look, I put a link down here for Department of Homeland Security, links for all of the things that you might need to look at and study in terms of disaster preparedness, man-made and natural. Man-made because, brothers and sisters, the scriptures say, while men slept, an enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat. And right now we got some people who are really tares among us, and they're choking out the life of the wheat that we need to make our daily bread. But it's harvest time. And you and I are going to have to realize that we'll never get anywhere without an agenda, an unapologetic Black or community-based agenda. You have to know, and we have to know what we want, and we have to plot and plan how we're going to go about getting it. Everybody does it but us. We can talk about reparations, But a government that's in debt and a dollar that's really not worth the paper it's printed on, I don't know about that. I do want reparations, but I want some of this earth you can call our own. As an urban planner, that would be a joy for me to have 8 to 10 acres, to eight to not acres, but 8 to 10 states to plan our infrastructure, our schools, our housing, our factories. I'd love to do that. I'd love to plan our port and our airports and our borders. That would be a joy for me and for you if we would think outside of the box. If you want to check, then what are you going to do with it? What if you hit the lottery? What are you going to do? You going to go to the Galleria? What are you going to do? Do you really understand how many people that hit the lottery wind up broke, bankrupt? So we have to build infrastructure. So, if you're going to build a highway or you're going to build a skyscraper, you literally almost go down in the ground deep as you are going to go up above ground. So we have to build the infrastructure, dear brothers and sisters. We have to build the infrastructure so that you and I, dear beloved, can prepare ourselves for what is unraveling right in front of our very eyes. And what is unraveling right before our very eyes? I'm not going to get ahead of my leader. I'm not going to talk about what's happening with the former president. I don't think it's necessary, and that really is above my pay grade. But I can say this. As a spiritual student of Scripture, looking through the placenta or the filter of the supreme wisdom, lesson number 1, question and answer number 5, why did we take Jerusalem from the devil? How long ago? The answer the most honorable Elijah Muhammad gave Master Fard Muhammad in the 1930s is not the answer he would have gave in 1974 or 75. He said at that time, if he answered that question, he said when he answered first answer the question, he was a baby in Islam. And by 1974, 40 some odd years later, he said he would have answered it would have been in volumes. So we have to look at things through the prism, if not the prism, through the placenta or the filter of our supreme wisdom. So now let me take it to Scripture since we mentioned Jesus in that lesson. Right now, if you really are not stuck on the King James Version of the Bible and you see other versions and translations of the Bible, this is true. That in Greek, when Pontius Pilate was faced with who letting one prisoner go during the Passover, he asked a question in one translation of the Bible: who should I release? Jesus Barabbas or Jesus the Messiah? Jesus Barabbas, man, you blaspheming brother, don't you Muslims always, I'm telling you, I got to translate, I can pull out the receipts. I got to translate Jesus Barabbas. You mean to say that the revolutionary, the one who started an insurrection, is the one that the people wanted to release, but the innocent man, the one who was hated without a cause, the suffering servant, the one by whose stripes we all were healed, was the one that they said crucified? Those of you who are wise know what I'm getting at. If these people will do that to the ex-president, and I don't believe that he will be convicted, come back later and say you was wrong, I don't believe he's going to be convicted. I believe somebody on that jury is going to hang the jury. I believe the judge that's over that case is going to assist the man that put her on the bench. That's as far as I'll go. But it's in the Scripture. We're taught that 75% of what's written in the gospel is prophecy. So it didn't take place 2,000 years ago, so it may play out now. So who am I talking about? I'm talking about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. All of the forces are gathering. Even our own black organizations are being dragged into this so-called fight to combat anti-Semitism. And the Anti-Defamation League put out this poll. It's their own polling, you know. In grad school, we had a saying, there's statistics. No, there's lies, damn lies, and then there's statistics. So you can do with statistics whatever you want to do with it. But it showed that when you look at the general population, say anti-Semitic views is 14%. It showed in the black community that is higher. Since 2016, it's been higher. Now, come on, brother and sister. What black leader in the black community has been critical of their behavior and draws tens of thousands of people, and they can't seem to shake the love of the people from this man? In fact, they fear to move on him, as the scripture said, because they feared the people. It's Minister Farrakhan, with all due respect to everyone else. So we know what the Southern Poverty Law Center, Anti-Defamation League, we know who the target is. And not only him, but myself and the Nation of Islam. You'll see my face on the website because I played Mr. Farrakhan's speeches on my radio show. They put my face all over the world, on the World Wide Web. And I'm not ashamed that I joined Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Bishop Tutu. You can run Paul Robeson. You can call the roll. Guess what? I guess I'm part of that great ensemble of black leaders. Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, all of them was called anti-Semitic. I don't have an anti-Semitic bone in my body, man. Please. I ain't got time for that foolishness. I really don't. I really don't. I'm more concerned with you and us surviving, because you can't thrive if you don't survive. So the chaos that's going to transpire, sister and brother, if we don't have an agenda and we don't build an infrastructure organizing ourselves around our own needs, and we're constantly looking to someone else to fulfill our needs, then we're vulnerable and we can't bounce back, and nor will we be able to bounce forward. We literally be knocked all the way out the park with the next disaster. If this country unravels and the medical system unravels, who is going to get treated first? If the economy crashes, who's going to be the first hired? Who's the first fired and going to be the last hired? How has history shown us? Who suffers educational disparities? Who suffers health disparities? Who's suffering all the things? Aren't the police still killing us? Didn't you see, those of you who live in Houston, didn't you see Houston Chronicle? I don't know how true it is, but they said that 70% of all the people that HPD hurts are black people. We got a black police chief. We got a black mayor. How can that be? Sister and brother, we have to open up our eyes. We have a majority black and brown school district, and now it's been taken over. The target of this county that is diverse, Harris County, Houston, that's diverse, people, darker people of color, and others have made this county and this city blue, and it's the target of the Texas legislature. Man, don't we see? So we're going to have a day off, a federal holiday, and I commend Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee for the work she did in getting the national federal legislation passed. You give credit where credit is due when thinking, but we don't need another day off. We need another day to go to work and do something for ourselves. So this link down here that you see, go to Homeland Security. Look at the link, study it, go over it, take a little time off of Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and look at it and play around with it and get at least get an idea. Have a discussion with your family. What's your backup plan? Do you know what to do if there's a power plant or something, or one of these oil chemical plants that have an explosion? Do you know how to make sure you turn off your air conditioning? You ride in your car, make sure you're not running your air conditioning because the air. You got a backup energy plan. If it's 105 degrees and the grid goes out, how you gonna stay cool? How you gonna keep your food refrigerated? What about our elders? Have you checked on your neighbors? What if you have to get out of your house? Do you got an escape bag? Do you got a firebox for all of your deeds and your insurance and your passports and your and stuff like that? Do you have your stuff in a plastic bag? Can you put it in a backpack with some underwear, your medicine, your medication? If you had to get out your house in an hour or so, do you got an escape plan? You got one for school? You got one for work? Do you got a plan for active shooter at your church, your mosque, your synagogue, your temple? Do you have a fire escape plan? Or you just gonna panic and everybody trample over each other like at some of these clubs and whatnot? Brothers and sisters, we have to prepare ourselves for man-made and natural disasters because these calamities are increasing. We can't keep being distracted. So I'm saying to each and every one of you, out of love, my plea to you, my appeal to you is to get organized. Organize yourself, organize your affairs, organize your family, organize your neighborhood, organize your organization to look at these things going forward. I haven't been on social media. I'm no longer on KPFT. We connect the dots. We had a mutual agreement that after 20 years, I would no longer broadcast Connect the Dots on that station. But that doesn't stop me from reaching out to you on occasion to talk about that which is on my heart. So keep your eye on the prize, brothers and sisters. Never rejoice in the fall of anybody. Stop mimicking and mouthing what other people say. Think for yourself. Do a fact check on what I'm telling you. Think over what I'm saying to you. You don't have to take it on face value. You won't offend me if you don't take what I'm saying on face value. You can't offend me. You just can't. I'm not going to be offended. Oh man, it sounds like BS. I'm going to check it out. Go check it out. But in the end, when it's all said and done, we have to get up and do something for ourselves, or we're going to suffer and continue to suffer the consequences. You can no longer ignore what our leaders have been telling us all along. If you really want justice, brothers and sisters, remember the words of Frederick Douglass. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. But I'll give you one up on that from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Power concedes nothing without power to make it concede. Your demands got to be backed by power. So power concedes nothing without demand backed by power, Minister Farrakhan teaches us. And our power is in our unity. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that our unity is more powerful than a nuclear or atomic bomb. Why do you think they work so hard to separate us? So when I say stop mimicking people, I don't like liberal liars, conservative cons, and moderate myth makers. I respect individual Democrats, individual Republicans, and those who call themselves moderates. But their philosophies and the parties that they represent, you can have them because everybody's agenda is over ours. Let's get organized, brothers and sisters. You have to be a part of in order to belong to. Integration was a sin, not because desegregation was right, because integration meant that you didn't just desegregate, you and I abandoned our own communities and our own institutions. Major League Baseball, Black players are at an all-time low. How did that happen? I grew up, my heroes were Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Tommy Agee, Cleon Jones, Hank Aaron. Come on, man. Bobby Bonds, who was Bonds' father. Come on, man. These were our heroes. We had Black heroes in baseball. But you know something? We had the Negro Leagues before that. You think they integrated, they brought Jackie Robinson in the Major League Baseball because they loved us? We're 75% of the NFL, but almost 0% of the ownership. We're 75% of the NBA. Now the NBA has become global. You got a man, the Joker, boy, that boy plays some ball, man. And I mean, you know, looked like we used to dominate coming out of the Rucker tournament in New York and Harlem, down under the viaduct on 155th Street by the river. The Holcomb Rucker tournament, man, had legends like cats that call Helicopter and, you know, all these I'm telling you, man, whether it's Kareem, Earl the Pearl Monroe, all some of the stars, there are people who played basketball in the Rucker that would have made it in the NBA, but shit, they were making more money selling dope and being gangsters. They were never going to be in the NBA. But they could outball anybody in the NBA. Now you got people from around the world that's equaling up, pushing up on us in ball. If you 60, 70% of the NBA, how about the ownership? NASCAR ownership. Why don't we need to be thinking about owning, not just participating. It's almost like Dr. Claude Addison says about us being in all the sweat industries, dancing, singing, sports. I thank God that Tyler Perry, they say, has bought BET and VH1. I hope he will change the programming. Because on there right now, what Summer Redstone and his family did is trash. It's garbage. And do you know this is the first time, I think they said 2022, 2023 was the first time that a rap album or hip hop album wasn't in the top Billboard top whatever. I gotta find that article. So that means that they're through with us. They've used us up. Rap music, the way that they've twisted it and turned it away from the 5 elements of hip hop. 5 initial elements starting back. This is the 50th anniversary, starting with the golden age of hip hop. Golden age of hip hop was impacted by the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, 5% nation of gods and earths. You can't deny that. Can't deny it. It was the golden age of hip hop. And somewhere along the line, it got turned and they've used us and used the music to corrupt us. And now I guess they through with us, man. It's like, you know, it's like the Hot Sheet Motel. You go in and pay a little money and then you leave it. And maybe that's how they've treated us. So, brothers and sisters, look, I've talked about a whole lot of things. In Houston, we have a mayoral election coming up. And some of us, we're impacted by crime. Black people are definitely impacted by crime. But we can't solve a crime problem without rebuilding family and community life. We got a $2 billion city budget. and nearly $1 billion of it is to police, but yet we still got crime. Maybe that's not the solution. Maybe we need not to defund the police, but we need to fund that which builds family and community life. I'm just saying. And then you need, and I need to prepare ourselves. We need to learn how to store food. We need a survival kit. We need a to-go bag. We need to prepare ourselves. Now, you can look at this and blow it off if you want to, but when it hits, you're going to say, Brother Muhammad tried to tell us. Don't ignore this, brothers and sisters. Honorable Elijah Muhammad ends his profound book called Fall of America, The Fall of America. He ends with a chapter called The Worst Is Yet to Come. And it is not getting better, it's getting worse. So, if you're going to vote, no more plantation politics, no more business as usual. Get a black agenda, put it together, vote your own self-interest and your enlightened self-interest. Stop mimicking the words of these political parties. Choose what's in your best interest. And as the saying of the Congressional Black Caucus, no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, just permanent interests when it comes to the political landscape. When it comes to natural and man-made disasters and economics and working together, remember our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. We must do for self or suffer the consequences. We got to support one another. If our business is and service has not been as good, let's sit down with our brothers and sisters in love and tell them, look here, man, you got to tighten up. You got to do better. So, assalamu alaikum to all of you. Thank you for tuning in. All of you who have tuned in today and watched this, share it with your friends, your neighbors, and tell them that Brother Muhammad loves you. And this is why I'm preparing this warning for you, because things is not getting better. They're going to get worse. And we're really closing in on a time that I believe it's just me. You don't have to believe what I believe, but if you know anything about me, you better believe that I believe it. I wouldn't be coming on here just to talk. I'm saying these things to you because something is moving me inside to appeal to you out of my love for you so that you don't suffer the loss, unnecessary loss. We're all going to suffer some losses, but it doesn't have to be unnecessary losses if we would just prepare ourselves properly. So I pray that God will bless you, brother and sister, and that those of us who consider ourselves or are part of the talented 10th find a way to give back. Find a way to reach one and teach one. Find a way to help somebody. As you come up, pull somebody else up with you. And don't sit around here and be like just waiting on somebody to help you. Get up and do something for yourself. Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us this analogy. Your car breaks down on the road. Man, put up the hood and act like somebody will pull over and help you. Maybe the day they'll rob you. Put up your hood and look like you need some help. And then somebody will come and help you. It happened to me one time driving back from Austin. Somehow, some way, we got caught up in a median, man. And some cats pulled up in a Jeep, man. I'm talking about a tobacco chewing, snuff dipping country boy with a cowboy hat and a big knife on his side. He had on cowboy boots and some jeans. He said, okay, you need help? He put a chain on my car and started to help us out, man. What am I going to say? No. I'm going to say God sent him. You do good things happen to you, and sometimes it comes in a package you don't even expect. That was a true story. I'm telling you the truth. So put out good, brothers and sisters. Good will come back to you. I just want you to be safe and sound, because I do see that something's coming, and we got to prepare ourselves for it. And To those of you who in the political class, I'm just going to say one thing to you here in Houston. Houston is not for sale. I'll talk about that on the next Connected Dots. So, this is one black man's opinion. What's yours? I'm Student Minister Dr. Abdul Halim Muhammad, and I'm greeting you in peace. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for tuning in.